Our guest today is Melissa King. She is the writer, photographer, and recipe developer behind the super popular blog My Whole Food Life. A vegetarian for 16 years, in 2012 she went vegan and quit processed foods with her family. Her recipes have been featured on The Today Show, The Huffington Post, Shape Magazine, Fitness Magazine, BuzzFeed, and Everyday Health. She's the author of 2 cookbooks, DIY Nut Milks, Nut Butters, and more, and her latest, Easy Whole Vegan. She lives in Dallas, Texas with her husband and 2 young daughters. Hey Melissa, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's so my pleasure. So I am very excited to talk to you. I have followed your blog for quite a while, but before I got your new book, I actually hadn't heard that much about your story. And so I got the book and I was reading it on the bus into work, and I mean it was bringing tears to my eyes. It was just such a sweet, moving story. So I wanted to start with that a little bit. So you have 2 girls.
Yes.
And when they were born, they had some health complications. Is that right?
Yeah, they both did. My first daughter, they both had really bad reflux, so like they would throw up constantly. And my first daughter had delayed gastric emptying in her stomach, so like you would feed her, but it wouldn't go from the stomach into the intestines. It would just sit in her stomach. And so, you know, you go to feed her, they say feed your kids every 3 hours. And so you go to feed her and she would cry and throw up. And I used to have to hold her upright, you know, so to give it time to go down. It seems, talking about it, it's like, oh my gosh, it was so long ago. But, so we had that with my first daughter. And then my second daughter also had really bad reflux. She wasn't growing. And we moved actually here to Texas because we were living in Las Vegas and we had no family support and we were like drowning. And so we moved here on a whim. And on the way here, my baby daughter was only 2 months old at the time, got sick. And we ended up taking her to the hospital and they admitted her. And they did all these tests and they figured out she was aspirating food into her lungs. And so she had to have a feeding tube put in. So she had the feeding tube for three years, and she was on this like special formula, partially digested formula. It was really weird because she couldn't tolerate anything. And so when she was about 14 months old, she was in feeding therapy with the therapist, and she was still throwing up every single day. And the therapist was like, "Why don't you try blending real food and giving it to her?" And so we were like, okay, so we did that. And seriously, it was like an overnight change. And the vomiting stopped. And she went on to heal like after that.
What was that feeling like when, you know, watching your daughter struggle so much, like throwing up almost every time that she was eating, to like all of a sudden just switching to this real food blended formula and having that almost overnight change? What did that feel like?
Oh my God, it was like amazing. Like it really, like a light bulb went off in my head, thinking if she's responding this way to real food, what's it going to do if we all change our diets? And, you know, we kind of thought we were healthy. Like I was buying packaged veggie burgers and I was vegetarian at the time, not vegan. And so we decided to just go whole food vegan. And it just changed our whole family. And just seeing that transformation in her health was like amazing. It was such a relief after seeing her struggle for so long.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I can imagine. It's really funny because I was the same way. I was vegetarian during college. I was kind of vegetarian basically. I would cook vegetarian at home, but then if I was offered food, I would just pretty much eat anything. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm like super healthy. And I was just eating like all this, you know, these super processed veggie burgers and like all this like processed granola and all this kind of stuff. So it's really funny how we have this idea about what healthy is. And I'm sure, and now that, you know, I've been doing this for quite a while, and you just see this immense spectrum of what healthy is and what healthy can mean, and it's such a general term. But it's really funny. I think my healthy vegetarian was very similar to yours.
Yeah, you know, I really thought it was healthy, but then once you start eating whole foods, and we all felt the changes in our body, my husband and I that's why we started the blog, because people were asking us, you know, what have you guys done? You're so much healthier. And so definitely we could feel it, and people on the outside could feel it too.
Yeah. So what were some of the results? Like what started happening when you switched your diet?
Sugar cravings, like because I was a huge sugar addict. I mean, I was the one with like candy corn in the car, like eating, driving my kids around, and once I stopped that, the first thing I changed was taking sugar out of my coffee in the morning.
Mm,
And it was hard for the first week, but the thing I noticed was that day that I quit, not starting my day with sugar, the cravings weren't there like they were every other day when I would put, 2, 3 teaspoons of sugar in my coffee. And that was another revelation, like, whoa, this is insane. My body's actually feeling satiated by what I'm eating, and I'm not having these cravings for something sweet. And once we got through like the first week, fruit seemed to satisfy my sweet
mm,
tooth, which was another huge change. I mean, I couldn't have imagined that before. And I almost feel like once you quit that processed stuff, you can, sorry if I'm going on a tangent
no, no,
here.
no, this is perfect.
Okay, once you quit the processed stuff, it's like your taste buds, they almost were so bogged down with sugar and salt that you can't really taste food for what it is. And when you quit that and you get all those taste sensations back, like it really got us excited about food, like whole food.
Hmm. Yeah, I had the same experience where I was eating very processed foods, and then when I switched, and it was a pretty dramatic switch for me, but I was never really that interested in food. Like there was all these different tastes and ingredients and vegetables and herbs that I never really explored. And then when this whole world opened up, and my taste buds began to shift, and it was almost like this experience of, like I call it, tasting in 3D, or like eating in 3D. It's like
Yeah,
this whole new dimension.
exactly.
Yeah, so that's really cool to hear. I really love too how you're talking about, like, you made this really small change. Like just having coffee without sugar is a pretty small little tweak, but it
Yeah,
started making these huge differences pretty immediately where it was affecting your sugar cravings, and then that kind of cascaded into these other changes. And
for sure.
I think that's something where people will often think that it has to be all or none, but really we can make these tiny little changes and see pretty big results.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, that's what I advocate people to do that, ask me how they can change. I say, baby steps. I mean, we quit most everything all at once, but there were some things in our cabinet that we kind of used until it was gone. And I would buy a couple new things a week, like coconut oil or different grains or things like that. I mean, I tell people if you try to quit everything all at once, it can be really overwhelming, and the little changes really do make a difference.
Yeah. Um, so sugar cravings went away. The health of your children really improved. Did you guys see anything else like weight loss or any of those kinds of things?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't overweight, but I had like 5 to 7 pounds of weight from having my kids that I just couldn't get rid of, and I lost it without even trying. I mean, I didn't feel like I was dieting. I was eating a lot of food, and
Mm,
that was huge too. I mean, I couldn't believe it because I had been trying to lose that for years. Even before I had my kids, there was always like a little bit of weight around my middle, and I mean, it's like we weren't even trying, and it
mm,
happened. Same with
yeah.
my husband. He lost 20 pounds, and his cholesterol numbers went down significantly. His bad cholesterol and the
Mm,
triglycerides, which was another big change in like, wow, we can really alter our health. Even if you're not that healthy to start, you
mm,
can change it with diet. I mean, it's always reversible.
yeah. How long did it take for you to start seeing these results and for your taste buds to start to change? How far into switching to whole foods were you when you started to see those results?
The taste buds probably within 1 to 2 weeks, and the weight was probably within the first month.
Hmm.
I mean, he didn't lose 20 pounds in a month, but for me, I had lost the weight, whatever I needed to lose in that
Mm,
about a
wow,
month. Yeah.
that's awesome.
I think it took him 4 months to lose the 20 pounds and see the changes in his cholesterol numbers.
Hmm. That's pretty quick. That's
Yeah.
great. So I think a lot of people are in this situation, and I certainly was in this situation of switching from a fairly conventional diet. Even though I did think that I was eating pretty healthy, and in some ways, by certain standards, I was. But to make this change to, really get the health transforming weight loss benefits of a whole foods plant-based diet. Um, what were the biggest barriers, or what was the most surprising thing? What were some of the challenges that you faced, and how did you deal with those that can be a lesson for people who are looking to make this transition? Like, do you have any advice for those people who are interested in making the leap?
I think that the biggest challenges were like meal planning is really important when you're trying to eat this healthy diet and stick to it. So we did a lot of planning our meals. We would shop for those things. We would do a lot of batch cooking, and then we put like serving size containers so we could just grab something and go, and make sure you have things that are okay to travel with, like bars or I usually get peanut butter packets or an apple, things like that. Because when you're out and about, I think that's what the hardest part for people is, oh, I'm just going to run to the store or I'm going to go grab a burger or something, and just having those things and be able to take them with you, even if you like have to pack a cooler, like a small little lunchbox or something to eat while you're out.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely, meal planning is key.
Do you have a system that you follow for that? And especially with like the batch cooking as well, is there like one day a week where you'll make certain things? Is there a day that you meal plan? Walk me through that. How does that work?
We do a lot of it on the weekends because my husband's home to help too.
Mm-hmm.
And I have 2 Instant Pots, which I don't know if you have one or not.
I do.
Oh my gosh, it's like the best thing ever.
It really
So
is.
I have 2 of them. So we'll, on a Saturday, we'll cook 2 things in there. Sometimes we'll even have something in the slow cooker even. And then we'll package it all up in serving size containers.
And are these is this like beans and rice, or is this an actual like a one pot kind of meal?
Yeah, usually they're soups or I cook a grain or beans, and then you can add vegetables to it, make like 5 or 6 meals out of like one. I mean, I cook a big pot of grains. You can add that to meals throughout the week to make them last longer, especially if you're doing bean dishes or things like that. Soups we do a lot of because they're usually really budget friendly and easy to make. I usually on the weekend I'll do baking, like all the muffins or things that my husband takes to work with him, and the snacks. And yeah, so we try to get all organized in the week. Even like I'll cut up vegetables, carrots and peppers or things like that, raw veggies I can eat with hummus throughout the week for a snack, so I'm not grabbing something like chips or whatever.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's one thing that we do as well, and it makes a huge difference just having some like chopped up veggies. I mean, it seems like such a small thing, and it's such an easy thing to do. It really doesn't take that much time. You could do it in like 15 minutes. But just having like chopped up veggies, put them on the top shelf of the fridge. So as soon as you open the fridge, it's right there. It's the first thing that you see, and that makes such a big difference in terms of picking healthier snacks versus less healthy snacks. I mean, in terms of like an easy win, that's definitely a good way to do. Good way to go.
I'm a huge like hummus addict too. I mean, I could live on hummus, and there's so many ways you can make it too.
Yeah, that's so funny. I think it must be a thing. Like as your taste buds change, then they also develop this incredible love for hummus.
Yes.
Like I always bond over hummus with all of my like whole foodie friends. It's so funny. We're all like so in love with hummus.
Oh, definitely. Well, my husband's Turkish, and his mom is from, directly from Turkey, and we use her family's recipe, and it's just a great base that you can make it into whatever flavor you want just by using the plain as a base.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What kind of flavors of hummus do you like? Do you have a favorite?
Roasted red pepper is probably my favorite.
Okay. Very cool.
I think, yeah. Or sun-dried tomato is really good too.
Yeah. Very cool. So I love the batch cooking and preparation. I totally agree that is like one of the pillars of making this work and making it easy. The other thing that I think you have unique experience in that I'd like to pick your brain about is how to make it work with kids. And especially in the book, I know you have this whole section on tips for picky eaters. And that's a huge thing that I hear where people have kids, they're trying to get them to eat healthier. So I always like to hear people's strategies in terms of what they do for their kids to make it more likely that they'll eat these healthy foods, especially if they're picky eaters.
Definitely. I mean, my kids, yeah, they have their picky times for sure. And I feel like with kids, if you give them some control over the meals, there's better results. So if we're at the store, like they can pick out a fruit, a vegetable, and, I don't even tell them what to pick. They just say, go get something, and they really get excited about that. And then making unhealthy kids foods in a healthier way can help kind of transition them too. So, make homemade French fries or mac and cheese, but do like vegan style. But
Hmm.
and try to do things like that. I often find too with my kids is if I give them little tastings of things instead of like a big meal, it's almost like finger foods. If you put something like different foods in like a muffin tin and they eat, here and there pieces of that, they really like that. I don't know what
Huh.
it is about it, but maybe it makes it fun for them.
Uh,
But
that's great. Yeah, I
yeah,
really like the idea of them being able to go and pick things at the grocery store too, because
yes,
that could be a fun way to try different ingredients and things.
yes,
Because I tend to get
exactly.
stuck in a little bit of a rut where I'm always buying the same thing. So having that way to go and explore different kinds of fruits and veggies is a really cool idea.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because when we first started this healthy lifestyle, we were doing bountiful baskets. I don't know if you guys have those.
No.
Where you are. It's kind of like a co-op. Everybody contributes a certain amount of money, and you get this basket of food, organic vegetables and fruits. And we would get it every Saturday, and you never knew what you were going to get, and so it did take you out of your comfort zone. And I mean, I made things that I probably never would have bought in the store.
Hmm.
So,
That's very cool. So one other thing I wanted to ask you was, uh, so your healthy journey started, your family's healthy journey started, and you started to document it on this blog. And I just want to get your thoughts on how you started the blog and if you expected it to become as wildly popular as it's become, and just to get kind of the story behind that and how it's developed over the years.
oh my gosh, I never, ever, ever would have imagined it'd be where it is now. But
Uh,
when I started, it was before I even had a blog. I started a Facebook page, and so my friends could see what we were eating, and I would
hmm,
share stuff. And then my husband was like, "Why don't you just put it on a blog?" And so I did, and I guess maybe it was at the time when a lot of people were kind of turning on to this movement, and
hmm,
maybe that's why it took off the way it did. I don't know, but I mean, it started from just one small thing, and I'm blown away at where it is today. I
uh,
mean, I feel so blessed and happy that people love to make the food.
hmm. That's so cool. And I think one of the things that makes your blog really special is just how it is such a like personal, heartfelt like explanation and exploration of what you guys are doing. It's just like feels very, very personal and relatable. Um,
Oh, thank
and
you.
also has really good food. So
Thank
that
you.
definitely helps. So we have your new book here, Easy
Yay.
Whole Vegan. And this is your second book, right?
Yes.
Very cool. So yeah, lots of great recipes. I absolutely recommend that everybody check it out. And then my final question before I'll ask you where people can find this. Do you have a favorite recipe from the book? Is
Oh
there
my
one that you
gosh.
really
If I
like?
had to choose one, I have a few. Can I can I name two?
Yeah, you can. We'll
I
bend the
think
rules for you.
the sweet potato hash breakfast recipe, so good. That
Hmm.
was one of my favorites. And oddly enough, the carrot cake granola. I don't even like carrot cake, but I love that granola. It's
Hmm.
so good.
That's awesome. Cool. So definitely check out those two recipes. Melissa, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And if someone wants to learn more about the book and pick up a copy, what's the best way for them to do so?
It should be anywhere books are sold. It should be there. But if you go to my website, I have a cookbook tab, and if you click on that, there's also links that can take you to Barnes and Noble, Amazon, Books a Million, all the sites where you could purchase it. So
Cool. And that's myWholeFoodsLife.com.
my whole food life.
My Whole Food Life. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
I always type into Google and then Google fixes it for me. So
Oh yeah, I know. You're not the only one that said that.
that's great. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's such a pleasure chatting with you, and best of luck with the new book. And I just think it's so great how you've inspired so many people. And I just really hope that your message continues to reach a lot more people and we can all be healthier.
Thank you. I hope so too.
All
Thanks for
right.
your time.
Yep, absolutely. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.